Good morning. This week on my community spotlight, Katie Robinson and I are here with our dear good friend Cy, and we had something special to share with you because he is a longtime Reno Tahoe native, and he just published his fourth book. Cy, I wanted to kind of jump in on it and let you take the stage.
Well, yes, I'm actually working on my fourth book
Oh, excuse me.
right now, present time. That's the third book. And the work that I do is about people, relationships, and communication. I call it dialogue. Dialogue flattens the field. What I discovered as a matter of my second existence, so there are three legitimate professions I worked in. I'm a child psychologist, an educator. I had my own business. I had as many as 1,000 different employees. We trained them. They were very, very heavily trained. And that led to a reputation that I could resolve staff problems. So I was called by professionals to assist them in working with their staff. And this now goes from, I've worked with children from 1948 to 1972. 1975, I was invited to speak to a group of professionals specifically about the subject of staff relations. And these people, the professionals, employed me and asked me to come to their offices and work with they and their staff. So here's the beginning of my second profession, which then occupied 35 years. And during that time, I discovered very early on that power was the issue between people. If there is anything that separates people, it's the misuse of power. What brings them together is the empowering of people. So I became the best student I've ever been, and I researched the issue of power. Social studies, philosophy, religion. I studied both Bibles. The idea was to learn as much because I had been a powerful leader, but unaware of my leadership powers. Now I discovered that if I was going to help professionals, which turned into working with engineers, computer firms, technology firms, science firms, every kind of organization, and hundreds of different leaders and personalities. And I discovered that the problem is not personnel, but rather the power and how it's used by the leader. So, of course, I had to know more, and the more I learned about myself. My relationship with each of the people that employed me was that they must be students, or I would not work with them. So this eventually led to a very successful practice throughout the United States, and probably as much awareness of power and its limitations and the good that it can do. So when I retired, I had to find another outlet, and so I became a writer. I'm not a very good writer, but I became a writer, and I wrote every day, and I became a very good writer. This book is a book of essays, short, right to the point, dealing with every issue. I even write about animals that were mine because they tell a story of power. They tell a story. Everything is about relationship, the mother to the child. Today in my new book, I'm writing about voice, the idea that a child is born with their own voice, but now it must be helped to come out, but it's the parents that inhibit that voice by having ideas about what they want that child to be. So this is the concern I have, that those in power need to use their power for good, to empower people. They will get the best staff possible. They will get the most productivity and creativity possible. And so that's the answer. And that's really the work that I do.
I think it's really interesting because we are seeing in our just kind of a shift in the workforce where, you know, I'm a millennial, and millennials, if someone's going to show power, especially extreme power, it turns us away and we just leave the job force and go find another job.
Without
Where
a doubt.
Before, the job force was thrive through it. So it's so interesting that you know, are bringing this together and at your age.
And I bring it together in as direct and clear a form as I have in me. Not to go on as with a volume, historic novel, but rather on one page to maybe a page and a quarter, tell something that you can see as a possible tool, as a possible way. In particular, if you're a leader, if you're a parent, you're a leader. If you're a teacher, you're a leader. If you're married, you have a leadership issue.
Yeah.
And is that leadership issue one that's going to be shared, or is it stuck with the man or the woman?
Right.
But the point is, it's still a matter of power. In my doing research, I was amazed at how power in the Bibles is seen, or at least told, as so negative an issue. It's, you know, the story of Job and God taking probably a man who has indicated his love for God and respect and regard, and yet Job and his family are virtually destroyed.
Yeah. So,
So
Sai,
anyway.
your book is more than leadership. It's about
It's
the
much more than-
relationship and the power, and it touches on all aspects of your life
Yes.
and what you've researched, right?
There's a golden thread that runs throughout the whole book, and I call it dialogue. And dialogue is when I hear you, I understand you, but I may not agree with you. And that's dialogue.
Yeah.
But when I falsify it and give you the indication that agree, that all of a sudden becomes not dialogue, but rather monologue. And so that's the essence. And the new book is about people who stand above the crowd. That's what I'm working on, people I've known and worked with intimately. And so it's a very interesting book for me to write because I have to go back. My mind is clear. I'm blessed at my age to be able to remember as clearly as I do, and I do. The events are awesome to me. And I'm so grateful for the people that trusted me to take me into their lives.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? 97 years old, wise beyond his years.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sitting down with us. We can't wait to share it with, you know, our generation, because I've read a few essays in here and it's definitely impactful. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you.
My pleasure.